I've been a member of Haringey Welcome since we started, which was September 2015. Initially, for me, it was sort of around the time the Syrian crisis was in the news, and really wanting to do something. And I'd just actually taken ill health retirement due to my own disability, and so I had a bit of space and a bit of energy that I could use to sort of think about what I'd like to do. And the Refugees Welcome campaigns were starting up all over the country, and in Haringey we didn't yet have one, so we decided to set one up, and we organised a petition asking our local authority to resettle 50 Syrian refugees. And off the back of that we then started campaigning. It took quite a long time to persuade our council to resettle people, and in the end they agreed to resettle 10 Syrian families. So that was, for us, it was quite a victory, because it took 14 months to get them to do that. But in the process, I think I really kind of realised how I've lived in North London all my life, and I haven't migrated from anywhere at all, although I've lived abroad and I've always sort of had quite an international outlook. But from my personal experience, I haven't personally migrated, and I think I'd sort of really taken my own environment for granted for most of my life. But the sort of experience of being disabled, and with the effects of austerity and cuts and so forth, and you sort of realise how important your local community is. And the experience of working on Haringey Council, A, I've got wonderful colleagues in the group, and B, we've met so many fantastic, amazing community organisations across Haringey that have existed for a lot longer than we have, who do the most vital work with the most people who are really vulnerable, and keeping the community together and keeping it going. So I think, it's been a really positive experience to really have a sense of what a great community we live in. I mean, Haringey is one of the most diverse boroughs in London. We have people from all over the world here, and it's very open community, and people are really kind of, one of the best things about it is the diversity. But at the same time there's a lot of deprivation, and I think since the austerity measures over the last 8 years, and particularly since Theresa May's hostile environment policies were introduced during the coalition government, and then later on with the current Tory government, it's just become worse and worse, and the conditions for vulnerable migrants are just appalling. So when we had our initial campaign to resettle the Syrian families here, it really came to our notice how bad things are for asylum seekers and refugees and other migrants already in Haringey and in other parts of the country, but this is our home turf, if you like. And we decided we wanted to do something about that. So we relaunched. We were called Refugees Welcome Haringey. We relaunched this year, February 2018, as Haringey Welcome. And we were the first grassroots community organisation campaigning to stop the hostile environment. And subsequently, a lot of other campaigns, local campaigns across the country, have started. Well, I would say the highlights are very much winning the campaign to resettle 10 Syrian families. That was great. And that showed us that we're good campaigners and that we can be effective locally. And then I think another highlight is that we have such amazing colleagues to work with across the borough. We are partnering with organisations such as Caris Haringey, the Selby Trust, Bridge Renewal Trust, Living Under One Sun, and there are just a myriad of groups, Haringey Migrant Support Centre, who are working with vulnerable people and including with migrants with no recourse to public funds. Also, we're working with schools, and we've had an amazing project this year. We've started a poetry competition in schools on the theme of welcome, and that's resulted in a beautiful anthology, and we've decided that we're going to repeat that next year. We've also got drama workshops. We're working together with Haringey Literature Live to produce creative writing, collaborating with migrants who would like to tell their stories. So we're looking at lots of really creative ways of, firstly, getting people out of isolation and meeting each other and talking to each other, and getting positive messages out there that kind of actually pushing back against all this sort of negative propaganda stuff that you hear so much about, particularly about immigration and about politics in general. And I think that's been really successful, and we're just sort of building on it more and more. Well, I mean, I think as a group, we've got this a fantastic core group of people with a very wide range of relevant experience, very talented, and it's just a joy to work together with these people. We have people with academic expertise, we have people with cold-faced experience of working directly with migrants and refugees in professional organisations, in charity sector, and also very creative people. We have poets, we have actors, we have writers, we have people who are great with IT. We have just such a range of brilliant people in our core group, and I think that's what makes it a joy to work with Haringey Welcome. One of the really important projects that we're working on at the moment is that we are working together with Haringey Council, and we are developing a welcome strategy or an integration and inclusion strategy to really improve council services and public services for migrants and refugees in Haringey. Unfortunately, they're hostile environment policies, they're national policies, but they impact in every aspect of our lives, including in public services and how those are delivered. Luckily, we have a council administration who are really willing to listen and work with us to do what they can within the law to try to push back against this sort of punitive nature of this policy, and to make Haringey more welcoming. So specifically, I mean, families with no recourse to public funds, they have run into a lot of problems in accessing council services, support from the council, and these are people who have no right to claim benefits, no right to healthcare, housing, often no rights to work, people, often women, single women who've been a victim of domestic violence, victim of trafficking, slavery, and who often have partners who, part of the way that their partners control them and punish them is by reminding them that they have precarious immigration status and that they may be forced to leave the country to be deported. So these are very vulnerable people, often facing destitution, and if they have children, it's essential that the local authority gives them basic subsistence and support that they need. And unfortunately, this, because of cuts and because of bureaucracy, this really hasn't been delivered as well as it should be. So we are working now with the council to develop a more welcoming strategy, and that would be hopefully improving integration and inclusion for particularly vulnerable migrants, but actually for all of us, because the problem with the hostile environment, it actually impacts on every single one of us. Whether we are being directly recruited as a border guard, proxy border guard in our workplace, whether that's a school or a hospital, or as a landlord or as an employer, whether we are a migrant, a refugee, a failed asylum seeker ourselves, actually being at the sharp end of this very hostile policy. It's about values and what values really matter to us. And I think Haringey being such a wonderful community, and the openness and diversity of our home where we live. And this is something that most people in Haringey value very highly. And in order to really promote those values, we must stand up against the hostile environment.